Chapter 302. Gu Mengmeng watched as Elvis imitated the way she slapped Leah the last time and felt like crying. She gave Elvis 2 slaps in the air and said, "Damn it, I should slap you to death first." Elvis smiled and hugged Gu Mengmeng back into his arms. He coaxed her gently and said, "If hitting me can make you feel better, then go ahead. Do you want to hit the left side? Or the right side?" Gu Mengmeng raised her hand. Facing Elvis's sincere and gentle look, she could not bear to hit him. She swung her hand and punched his chest. She snorted and turned her head to ignore him. Elvis held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and placed it in his palm. He carefully touched every inch of skin on her hand and said, "Winter is almost over. When the snow melts, everyone will see Leah walking out of our cave. By then, even if you did not mate with him, he will already be a member of our family. So, strictly speaking, he cannot be considered as someone else." Gu Mengmeng was stunned. She tilted her head and asked Elvis, "What do you mean?" Elvis always knew that Gu Mengmeng had no concept of the rules in the beast world. So he patiently explained, "Do you still remember Barit's request before winter?" Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and replied, "I remember, he said he wanted to stay in our cave. Didn't you reject him on the spot?" Elvis nodded and said, "I rejected him because I know you don't want to mate with him and you don't have any special feelings for him. So I cannot let him enter our cave. Because once he winters in our cave, it means that he is a member of your family that you have accepted. It's just that his status is extremely low and he does not have the right to mate with you. He can only be used as hunting labor during the rainy and dry seasons to provide food for the family. During winter, he will be used as your food reserve. This way, no female in the tribe will be willing to mate with him. If he regrets one day and wants to leave this status, he can only leave Saint Nazir and find a new tribe. However, there are very few tribes that are willing to take in single males. Moreover, if you meet someone who left you after knowing that he had been your food reserve, no female in the new tribe will be willing to mate with him. Even if they have already mated, there is a high possibility that they will be abandoned. So, generally speaking, after entering a family as food reserves, there's basically no way out. The better ones might be accepted by the females and become one of their partners, but such cases were rare. Most of them became food during the winter to provide for the females' hunger and warmth for the season. And what's worse, is that after experiencing countless winters and summers, the females even forget that they have such a male by their side. Then, on a certain hunting day, they leave and never return, but no one knows. It's as if there has never been such a person in this world. This is the reason why I didn't agree to Barit entering our cave. If you are unwilling to accept him in the end, then he can only be kept by your side as a pet beast for the rest of his life. With your kindness, in the end, you will either have to accept him, or suffer because of your conscience. No matter what, I'm not happy to see it, so I rejected him." After listening to Elvis, Gu Mengmeng remained silent for a long time. She slowly turned her head towards the direction of the cave entrance and said softly, "But I let Leah stay in." Out of topic, thank you Xiaoxiang Academy, Yun Yang Shiyan, for the flowers. I love you. Chapter 303. Elvis heaved a sigh of relief because Gu Mengmeng's sentence should have been said by him, but he had deliberated for a long time. No matter how he put it, it sounded like a rebuke and he did not want to rebuke Gu Mengmeng. Elvis felt his heart ache when Gu Mengmeng said it herself. He hugged Gu Mengmeng and said, "Leah and Barit are different. I know you like him." Gu Mengmeng turned around and asked Elvis, "You are always trying to incite me to accept Leah. Don't you feel jealous? Aren't you worried that I will have a change of heart?" Elvis thought about it seriously and nodded, "Of course I'm worried, how can I not be worried? When you were dating him in the past, you could not even see me in your eyes. At that time, I was extremely upset every day. But because I was upset, I don't want you to experience the same thing. Since you like him, then let's be together. I only have one request. That is, his mark, do not appear on your chest. Or else, I might not be able to take it." Gu Mengmeng sighed. She really did not know how to respond to Elvis's generosity. She thought about it and said, why don't we ask Leah to leave before winter ends? That way, no one will know that he has been staying in our cave for so long. Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng and smiled. Looks like pregnancy makes one foolish for 3 years is true. Hiss. Gu Meng Meng glared at him. Elvis immediately shut his mouth and changed his words. Did you forget that Ian from the Eagle Owl tribe came to our cave before? Although the birds' tribe's sense of smell is not as good as ours, their eyesight is extremely good. I heard that no detail can escape their eyes. He stood at the entrance for so long that day and probably knew that Leah was staying in our cave. Unless Leah and I kill all 32 of them now and leave no one alive, we can't hide the fact that Leah is staying in our cave during winter. Gu Meng Meng bit her lower lip and kept quiet. She raised her head again and looked at Elvis helplessly. I only hoped that he could save you, so when he suggested staying here, I agreed without a second thought. I didn't know things would turn out like this. Even if you and I join hands, it is almost impossible to kill 32 eagle owls at the same time. Don't forget, they can fly. As long as he ascends to the heavens, there's nothing we can do. Leah was already leaning against the entrance of the cave. He tilted his head and looked at them with a faint smile. Gu Meng Meng felt guilty and lowered her head. Leah, I'm sorry. Leah took 2 steps forward, hugging his knees as he squatted down. He accommodated Gu Meng Meng's height and looked straight into her eyes. His long and affectionate eyes were filled with seriousness. His large furry tail swayed behind him, one black and one white, reflecting off Elvis's tail. His 2 pure white fox ears were on top of his head. His demon-like posture was filled with an immortal aura that was not tainted by dust. It was so clean that it was like a gust of wind that blew through the snow. It was so cool that one did not dare to breathe, afraid that they would pollute the air. I've said it before. I want to hear your confession more than an apology. Leah looked at Gu Meng Meng seriously. His smile was so gentle that it made her heart ache. In order to not make you hate me, I have been working very hard to guard the boundaries you mentioned. No matter how much I want to hug you, I can only hug myself like this. I clearly want to kiss you, but I can only look at you from afar. I feel very satisfied to be able to do something for you. But if you still won't allow me to stay. Aside from the topic, thank you for the 20 diamonds from Xiaoxiang Academy's Bloodstained City. Currently, you are the person with the highest fan value in Wenwen and also the second scholar in this article. Thank you baby for your support. Chapter 304. Leah paused and leaned his body forward slightly. He whispered into Gu Meng Meng's ear, then, there's only one way left. Gu Meng Meng blinked her eyes and asked, what way? Leah pursed his lips and his slender fingers brushed across his chest. He said in an inviting tone, eat me before the snow melts. What nonsense are you talking about? Gu Meng Meng stood up immediately. But because she stood up too quickly, she felt a little dizzy. Her vision blurred and she almost fell. Leah quickly caught Gu Meng Meng and smiled, I finally got to hug you again. It's enough for me to hug you like this once before I die. Lee's smile was very gentle, so gentle that it made one feel hopeless. Gu Meng Meng's heart was throbbing in pain. She calmed herself down and stabilized her hands. She pushed Leah away and said, is there something wrong with you? I haven't even finished eating the food in this cave, why would I eat you? Do you think I'm a skeleton spirit? Leah tilted his head and touched his heart as if he was wronged. He said, but I heard that the heart of a snow fox has the effect of prolonging one's life. Gu Meng Meng was about to hit him when Leah touched his stomach again and said, the flesh on my stomach is also very smooth and tender. It tastes much better than normal wild beasts. And I'm a 3rd level orc. If you eat me, your body will definitely be much stronger than it is now. That way, you won't fall sick after playing in the snow for a while. Gu Meng Meng wanted to cry but no tears came out. She looked at Leah and then at Elvis and sneered, are you sure one is a wolf and the other is a fox? Neither of you is a fox wearing a wolf's skin or is a wolf wearing a fox's skin. Why the hell are you both so eager to let others eat you? Isn't it good to live well? Look, this world is so beautiful, right? Leah caressed Gu Mengmeng's face gently, his eyes filled with greed. He wanted to take one more look at her, one more look, as if he wanted to carve her into his eyes. He said with deep affection and loneliness, if you don't want me anymore, this world will not be beautiful at all. Rather than living in a purgatory filled with torment, I might as well fuse my flesh and blood into your body and become one with you, using another method to protect you once. At least I can die a worthy death. Leah paused and recalled the time when he was fooling around by the stream before he confessed to Meng Meng. She thought he was going to eat her up and begged for mercy in his arms while crying. He was vexed. Was he not affectionate enough? Why would this little fellow think of a romantic atmosphere as a bloody and violent scene? Thus, he deliberately scared her, and she really closed her eyes and waited for death. She was obviously trembling violently, but she still pretended to be unafraid of death. Back then and now, it was so similar. Once upon a time, you begged me not to eat you. You said you wouldn't choose between food and partners. Leah said while caressing Gu Mengmeng's neck. That was the place where he once planted strawberries. Li's smile was filled with the warmth of memories. His gaze overlapped with that day, looking at Gu Mengmeng seductively and affectionately. Using the same tone as that day, he said, since you don't want to choose, let me choose for you. Leah slowly lifted his silver hair and revealed his snow-white neck to Gu Mengmeng. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with his perfect side profile and said, it's all right, it won't hurt, eat me up, then we will fuse together and we will never be separated again. Gu Mengmeng was stunned. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Shaoxiang Academy, Max Yangying, for the evaluation ticket. Thank you. Chapter 305. Gu Mengmeng remembered that Leah had said that to her before. But at that time, sighing, Gu Mengmeng pushed Leah away and said, stop fooling around, you know I won't eat you. Leah was very dejected, as if he was very disappointed with Gu Mengmeng's unparalleled ability. He patted his stomach and muttered to himself, it should be delicious, why don't I like it? Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. First it was Barit, then Elvis, and now Leah was the same. What was wrong with the males in the beast world? The boundless world was rich in resources and there were so many things to eat, why did they have to suggest others to eat them? Did they think they were mantises? Gu Mengmeng returned to Elvis's arms and looked up at Leah, saying, sit down, let's eat something together. Leah nodded and sat cross-legged beside Elvis. He placed his elbows on his knees and his hands on his cheeks. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and smiled, saying, are you trying to feed me until I'm fat before eating? Gu Mengmeng raised her little fist and made an action as if she was going to hit someone, saying, don't provoke me, I just gave birth and can't take fright. Don't keep telling me scary stories about people eating people. If you scare me until I lose my milk, I will fight you for my sons. Leah shrugged his shoulders and finally avoided this topic. Gu Mengmeng scooped a big piece of meat from the pot and passed it to Elvis, saying, you took care of the 5 of us for an entire day and I didn't see you eat anything. I must have tired you out when I was pregnant previously, right? Elvis did not reject her, because winter was really about to end and the food stored in the cave was enough for them to eat until the rainy season when their prey would come out. In order not to waste food, Elvis always chewed the bones and swallowed them, because he realized that cooked bones were much easier to digest than raw ones. Rather than throwing them away, he would rather eat them. So most of the time, he would secretly pick up the leftover bones from Gu Mengmeng and eat them, so as to save as much food for Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng was also used to Elvis's way of eating bones without spitting out the bones, so she would usually choose those with more meat and less bones for Elvis to eat, afraid that he would suffer from indigestion and end up with stones. Elvis swallowed his food and kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face. Compared to your suffering, how can my suffering be considered as any hardship? Gu Mengmeng smiled, feeling very touched. She had an older sister who worked as a white-collar worker in a company before she got married. Her monthly salary was less than 10,000, and she was very confident wherever she went. Not long after they got married, she got pregnant. Her husband wanted her to stay at home to raise the baby, and she agreed. However, once she quit her job, it would be difficult for her to go back to work. When she was pregnant, she had to wait to give birth. After giving birth, she had to wait to go to kindergarten. After kindergarten, she had to wait to go to primary school. However, before the child could go to primary school, her husband had cheated on her. The reason was that he was fed up with his children's crying and his wife's complaints. He even asked his sister, which man would want to go home to see an old woman every day. Little Missy said that she had given birth to a child for him, so how could he be so inconsiderate towards her? The man snorted disdainfully and asked, which woman doesn't know how to give birth? This is your duty. That time, the sister hugged the child and gulped down beer, crying to Gu Mengmeng, I'm not afraid of suffering with him, I'm not afraid of suffering for him, I'm afraid that he can't see everything I've done. I don't want to live a luxurious life, I just want some words of comfort. That's all. Aside from the topic, thank you to my QQ reading baby, Bianing Lu, for your 999 reading points, and thank you for your message. Chapter 306. That night, Gu Mengmeng did not return home. Instead, she stayed in the hotel with her drunk sister and helped her take care of her young son. But the next day, Gu Mengmeng was woken up by the police. A bone-piercing cold wind blew in through the open window. And that window was the exit that the sister had used to escape from this hopeless world with her child. Gu Mengmeng sighed. She did not know why she would suddenly recall this memory. She just felt a little disappointed. She looked up at Elvis and said, "Thank you for seeing everything I did. Thank you for comforting me." Elvis sharply sensed that Gu Mengmeng's emotions were not right. He kissed her lips lightly and asked, "What's wrong? Something on your mind?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and smiled, "Maybe it's the legendary depression." Elvis looked at Leah, who shook his head to indicate that he had never heard of it. He did not know what to do either. Gu Mengmeng patted her face to cheer herself up. Then, she smiled and said, "All right, I'm fine. Don't worry." Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and gently stroked her hair. He comforted her gently, "Don't be depressed, don't be depressed, don't worry. You have me." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "I know, I have a good hubby." Elvis accepted Gu Mengmeng's compliment with a smile. The word hubby was especially pleasing to the ears. "Hey, my good hubby, shouldn't we be doing something serious now?" Gu Mengmeng asked with a smile. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng's lower body thoughtfully. Then, he shook his head firmly and said, "Although I really want to, your body has not recovered yet. I can't do it for now." Gu Mengmeng's melancholy mood was instantly broken by Elvis. She picked up her chopsticks and knocked on Elvis's head, saying, "What are you thinking about?" "I'm talking about serious matters." Elvis said seriously, "It's serious matters. But Xiao Meng, you really need to rest." Gu Mengmeng really did not know whether to laugh or cry. She shook her head and said, "I know I need to rest. The serious matters I'm talking about are not the unserious matters you are thinking about. I'm talking about our 4 babies. We can't possibly call them first, second, third, and fourth every day, right? Isn't it time to give it a proper name?" Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng and thought seriously for a while before replying, "Whatever, you can call me whatever you like." Pfft. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to spit blood on Elvis's face. She complained, "Can you be more attentive? He's your son after all." "What do you mean by whatever?" Elvis said, "My name was randomly chosen by me after I became an adult." "Leah, what about you?" Leah thought for a moment before replying, "I snatched my name from someone else after I became an adult." The corners of Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched as she asked, "Is there a need to fight over names?" Leah nodded and said, "I think his name sounds nice, so I killed him and his name belongs to me. If one day, someone likes my name, they can also challenge me. Many people are like this." Elvis added, "Yeah, I snatched 2 names in the past too, but after snatching them, I felt that they didn't sound good, so I just gave up and randomly picked one for myself. I've met people who tried to steal my name before, but they never beat me up. Gu Mengmeng's face was filled with despair. It's just a damn name, what's there to snatch? If you don't believe me, you can just go to the village entrance and shout, "Dog leftover." Even if there aren't 10 people, at least 8 will respond to you. According to the logic of the beast world, the strongest dog leftover in the village has to strangle all the other dog leftovers in the village to monopolize the name, dog leftover. Aside from the topic, thank you to the QQ reading baby, Lazy Das Huang, for the 399 reading points. Leah blinked his long and narrow eyes at Gu Mengmeng and said, "A beast pet should look like a beast pet. Since you're not going to eat me, then I'll just be a vixen." Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes and could not be bothered with him. She turned to look at Elvis and asked, "What about you? Do you have any good suggestions?" Elvis thought for a moment and pointed at the 4 little ones and said, "Scram further away, scram further away, scram further away, scram scram." Aside from the topic. Chapter 308. Gu Mengmeng deeply felt Elvis's disdain towards the 4 little ones. She started to reflect, did she neglect Elvis after giving birth to her sons? But it had only been a day since she gave birth to her sons, did Elvis need to hold such a deep grudge? Elvis saw that Gu Mengmeng did not seem to be very satisfied with this name, so he thought for a while and said, "From me, wife, beside, scram." Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, even if I have sons, I will still love you the most. After all, I already have 4 sons, but only 1 husband, so you don't have to show such strong animosity towards them. Especially the 4th, it was so hard for me to give birth to him, on account of me suffering so much, can you not ask him to scram every time you open your mouth?" Elvis was silent, then looked at Gu Mengmeng with a grievance and said, "Now you, actually lied to me for them." Gu Mengmeng looked like she was wronged and said with the most sincere eyes, "I didn't, when did I lie to you?" Elvis pointed at Gu Mengmeng's chest angrily and said, "You have never fed me like this before, but you let them eat for a long time today." Gu Mengmeng almost choked to death by her own saliva and her face instantly turned red as she punched Elvis. Then, she looked awkwardly at Leah who was lying on her knees and looking up at her. Leah seemed to be thinking about something, then his lips curled up and he flipped over to lie on his back, asking Gu Mengmeng, "Do you still lack sons? The ones with big furry tails?" Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and thought to herself, "Damn it, you still wanted me to call you daddy yesterday and now you want to call me mommy? What kind of seniority is this?" Gu Mengmeng slapped Lee's face and said, "I am tired, I need to sleep for a while. I will think of the names after I wake up." As Gu Mengmeng said, she stood up from Elvis's arms and walked towards the bed. She did not even take 2 steps before Elvis pulled her from behind. Gu Mengmeng turned around and saw Elvis looking at her as if he was looking at Chin Shimmy. She said with resentment and hatred, "How dare you say you are not lying to me? You used to hug me to sleep in the past, but now you are abandoning me to hug them." Gu Mengmeng had no choice but to return to Elvis's side and pounce into his arms. "I'm not going to hug them, I'm going to hug you." "Yes." Elvis coolly responded with a single syllable, but the corners of his lips could not help but curl up, his eyes filled with pride. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to say that she had never seen anyone fight with his son to such an extent. How could he persuade her to accept Leah with this kind of behavior? When that time comes, wouldn't there be a Liaozhai's wolf demon versus the fox demon at home every day? Just as Gu Mengmeng was thinking, Elvis had already walked to the side of the bed. He lifted his leg and kicked the cushion that the 4 little ones were sleeping on. The 4 little ones were like cocktails that slid across the bar counter in a bar, and were kicked to a corner together with the cushion. Elvis laughed coldly. If he had to say a line, it would definitely be, "Small fry, fighting with me?" Gu Mengmeng's heart ached and just when she wanted to stretch her neck to take a look, Elvis looked at her with a face full of grievance. Gu Mengmeng thought that since the 4 little ones did not move at all, they must still be sleeping soundly and should be fine. Thus, she could only smile embarrassedly and lay in Elvis's arms obediently, being an obedient little woman. Elvis then nodded his head in satisfaction. Then, he said to Leah, "You sleep on the outside and block her. Don't let Xiao Meng fall onto the ground." Leah smiled and nodded his head. Then, the two of them sandwiched Gu Mengmeng in the middle, one on the left and one on the right. Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched as she thought to herself, are they working together with the secondary enemy to attack the primary enemy? Are they planning to work together with Leah to fight with my 4 sons for her favor? Aside from the topic. Chapter 309. When Gu Mengmeng woke up, she finally understood why Elvis wanted Leah and him to accompany her to sleep. This was a 360-degree isolation belt without any blind spots. The 4 little ones were really hungry, but they could not climb over the 2 huge black and white mountains in front of them. Just by getting a little closer, they were either kicked by someone or, coincidentally, swept by someone's tail, causing them to tumble out. The moment Gu Mengmeng woke up, the 4 little ones screamed at the top of their lungs with their childish voices. Although Gu Mengmeng could not understand what they were saying, she could tell from their expressions that they were extremely aggrieved. Their cries for food made Gu Mengmeng's heart melt into water. "Oh, my babies, come to Mummy quickly." Gu Mengmeng kicked Elvis away and arched her butt, pushing Leah to the side. Then, she opened her arms wide and faced her 4 sons with a welcoming posture. The 4 little ones looked as if they had been abducted and sold. When they saw their mummy, they were extremely affectionate. Spreading their 4 short legs, they rolled and crawled into Gu Mengmeng's arms. They stuck out their pink tongues and licked Gu Mengmeng's face and neck crazily. Gu Mengmeng patted their little heads one by one and comforted them, all right, Mummy knows that you guys have suffered." Gu Mengmeng had only slept for 1 night, but she could already feel her breasts swelling up badly. Both sides of her chest had hardened and it would hurt at the slightest touch. Gu Mengmeng laid on her side, with her back facing one male who looked aggrieved and the other gloating. She used the beast's skin to cover her body, then unbuttoned the front of her shirt and carried the 2 who had not eaten their fill in the morning into her arms to feed them. Although Gu Mengmeng's chest was in excruciating pain because her sons were using too much strength to drink milk, it was obvious that the milk these children drank was mixed with blood. But looking at her sons' tiny bodies and eager looks, Gu Mengmeng felt that there was nothing that could not be overcome by clenching her teeth. So, even though she was in excruciating pain, Gu Mengmeng still had a slight smile of relief on her face. Perhaps, this was the legendary saying, "Women are weak, but mothers are strong." The 4th brother did not manage to snatch the first prize and was clearly unwilling. He did not care about anything and wanted to snuggle into Gu Mengmeng's arms, while the eldest brother bit his hind leg and dragged him back. He used his 2 front paws to pounce on the back of the 4th brother, biting his little ears and then his neck. He did not use much strength and was clearly playing with him. Gu Mengmeng poked the leader's head with her finger, gently caressing him from the top of his head to his back, before giving him a light pat on his butt. The boss was so comfortable that he was snoring and twisting his little body was very cute. Gu Mengmeng giggled at her son's teasing. Seeing that the leader had received his mother's reward, the 4th brother also cried out. Gu Mengmeng did not even need to guess to know that he was asking for praise, so she did the same and touched the 4th brother. She then turned to Elvis and said, "Look, most of our elders are sensible." At such a young age, she already knew how to look after her younger brother. "You have the demeanor of an elder brother." Elvis glanced at his eldest son who was acting cute beside Gu Mengmeng, his face full of disdain. As Gu Mengmeng's head was turned away, she could not see Elvis's expression clearly. She was only immersed in the joy of becoming a mother for the first time. She looked at her eldest son and thought for a moment, before saying, "Our eldest brother is a virtuous brother, let's call him Hada." The word ku originally means beautiful jade, meaning that our eldest brother will become a good young master who is as gentle as jade in the future. When you open it up, it is Wang Ku. With the word da, it means that he has the virtue of being a king. In the future, he will inherit your mantle and become the next great tribe leader. How about that? Aside from the topic. Chapter 310. Elvis sat behind Gu Mengmeng and pointed at the leader who was still acting cute. I like this name, I want to change with him. He is Elvis, I am Heda. Gu Mengmeng burst into laughter and turned to look at Elvis, asking, snatching a name from your own son. Only you can think of that. Elvis's face darkened. Didn't you say you love me the most? Not even giving me a name. Gu Mengmeng was really speechless at Elvis's way of thinking. He had been persuading her to accept Leah every day, but now he was making things difficult for his son. Gu Mengmeng knew very well that this husband of hers was always amenable to coaxing but not coercion, so she pulled Elvis's hand and placed it on her waist, playing with his slender fingers while saying, but, I feel that the name Elvis suits you better. And I am already used to it. I will call Elvis when I need help, Elvis when I am bored, Elvis when I miss you and Elvis when I am angry. If you change your name, I am afraid I will not be used to it. Elvis's expression softened and he held Gu Mengmeng's little hand, asking, do you really think that Elvis sounds better? Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, to me, this is the most special name. He carries our memories, and, my love for you. So, this name is unique. Elvis smiled and kissed Gu Mengmeng's cheek, saying, if you say it is good, then it is the best. Gu Mengmeng smiled and asked, then are you still going to change your name with Heda? Elvis raised his eyebrows and looked at Heda coldly, saying, if he wants to be the leader of Saint Nazir, he must first defeat me. Just him? Wait another 100 years. Gu Mengmeng scoffed and turned to continue looking at her son. Baby, what do you think? You will be called Heda in the future, all right? Heda actually did not understand what had happened, he only knew that his mother was very gentle when she called him Heda, so he cried out happily, making Gu Mengmeng laugh again. He said he likes it. Elvis translated. Gu Mengmeng was extremely surprised and turned to look at Elvis, asking, you can understand what babies say? Elvis smiled gently, then rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, saying, to give birth to these 4 fellows, is my Xiao Meng really going to be dumb for 3 years? TSK, are you asking for a beating? Gu Mengmeng glared at Elvis reproachfully, but her serious expression did not last long before she broke into a smile. She pushed Elvis's arm and said, hurry up and say it, don't keep me guessing. Elvis pointed at Heda and said, he is a wolf. Gu Mengmeng nodded, indicating that she knew. Then, Elvis pointed at himself and said, I'm also a wolf. Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and said, but at my place, the sounds that newborn babies make are all meaningless. It's impossible for us to understand them. Elvis leaned close to the side of Gu Mengmeng's face and licked her little earlobe lightly. Then, he blew his warm breath on her earlobe and said gently, wolves will never make meaningless sounds, never. Gu Mengmeng's face was filled with tears. Gu Mengmeng's heart pounded, they were clearly an old married couple, right? They had already given birth to 4 sons, but she could feel that Elvis's hormones were getting stronger by the day. Just by being so close to him, her heart could not stop beating. Aside. Chapter 311. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and pushed Elvis away a little. She swallowed her saliva and secretly heaved a sigh of relief at an angle that Elvis could not see. Then, she said, all right, since Heda likes his own name, that's great. Next. Gu Mengmeng patted the 4th brother who was still fighting with Heda lightly and said, it's time to give him a name. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and had an idea in her mind. But before she said it out, she decided to respect her son's opinion first. So, she said to Elvis, help me ask the 4th brother if he has any thoughts on his own name? If he has a name he likes, then let's go with it. He doesn't have any objections. Elvis answered on behalf of the 4th brother without even thinking. You haven't even asked, how do you know he doesn't have any objections? Gu Mengmeng pouted, dissatisfied with Elvis's perfunctory reply. Elvis laughed and used his finger to poke the 4th brother's head. He said coldly, the weak don't have the right to decide their own fate. Whatever you want him to be called, he will be called. If he doesn't like it, he can just change it on the day he defeats me. Gu Mengmeng facepalmed. If she had learned higher mathematics better, she could have calculated the size of her son's psychological trauma. However, the fourth brother's reaction was not as hurt as Gu Mengmeng had expected. Instead, he was full of vigor. He straightened his neck and howled at Elvis. If not for the fact that his voice was too childish and his appearance was too adorable, he would have looked very imposing. Elvis sneered and raised one of his eyebrows, saying, "All right, I'll wait." Gu Mengmeng was in a completely dumbfounded state. She had the misconception that her husband and son were using a different dialect to communicate with her. She could not bear to pat her son, so Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's arm and asked, "What are you two talking about? Can you bring me along?" Elvis used his chin to point at the fourth brother and said, "This fellow said that he will defeat me soon and asked me to wait." Gu Mengmeng frowned upon hearing that. She asked to confirm again, "He really said that?" Elvis nodded. Gu Mengmeng sighed and looked at the fourth brother sternly, saying, "Baby, you can't talk to daddy like that. Good children shouldn't contradict their parents. Otherwise, their parents will be very sad." Fourth brother sat on the side of the bed with his two front legs supporting his body. He tilted his head and howled at Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng turned around to look at Elvis, who automatically translated, "He asked you what is a father, what is a good child, what is rebutting and what is sadness." Gu Mengmeng was tickled by her son's silly look and burst out laughing. She laid in front of the fourth brother and looked at his little face, saying, "So, you only know what a baby is and what a mother is." The fourth brother howled twice and used his little claws to rub his face randomly. Gu Mengmeng guessed that he was probably trying to say that she was right. Gu Mengmeng thought about it. He was just a day old and his eyes had not even opened yet, how much could he know? So she patiently explained, "I am your mother, and my husband is your father. He is brave, upright, kind, and considerate. He will hold up the sky for us and let us live freely without worrying about being hurt. He is the only person in this world who will never betray us. Daddy is very tough and very noble. So, you can't talk to him like that." Aside from the topic. Chapter 312. Heda and the fourth brother tilted their heads and looked at Gu Mengmeng, quietly listening to her. They did not make a fuss or run around, but just looked dazed, as if they did not understand what Gu Mengmeng meant. Gu Mengmeng continued patiently, "You and Papa are my most important family. I love you very much, so if you make Papa angry, I will be very sad. If I am very sad, I will cry. Do you want to see Mama cry?" Ow ow ow, together with the other two who were drinking milk, the four little ones shook their heads and howled in unison. Gu Mengmeng giggled from their teasing. She kissed them one by one and said, "Babies who don't make their mama cry are good babies." Ow ow ow, the four little ones continued howling. Gu Mengmeng turned to look at Elvis, who translated, "They said, they will be good babies." Gu Mengmeng felt extremely comforted and hugged the four little ones in her arms, kissing them again and again. The second and third brothers were basically full, so Gu Mengmeng carried Heda and the fourth brother back into her arms, letting the second and third brothers play at the side. Leah had already gone out to prepare food, so it would not be long before there would be a supplementary meal for them to eat. The eldest brother leaned against Gu Mengmeng's stomach and drank milk quietly, while the fourth brother kept howling as he ate, but his voice was very muffled and could not be heard clearly. Gu Mengmeng patted the back of the fourth brother and said, "Don't talk when you are eating, you might choke." Ow ow ow, the fourth brother opened his mouth and howled a few times at Elvis before continuing to eat. Elvis placed his leg under Gu Mengmeng's neck to make her more comfortable, and used his tail to support Gu Mengmeng's waist, so that she did not need to use her own strength. He pinched Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and translated, "He said he wants a name more impressive than Heda." Gu Mengmeng smacked her head and said, I was so focused on educating the children that I forgot about naming them. Sorry, it's Mama's fault." The fourth brother was drinking milk and could not answer Gu Mengmeng. He remembered that his mother told him not to talk while eating, so he held it in and shook his head to express what he meant. He believed that his mother would understand. However, his mama did not understand at all. "Let me think. What should we call our fourth son?" As Gu Mengmeng spoke, she caressed the fourth brother's back. She thought for a while and said, the fourth brother has the strongest physique among the 4 children. One look and you can tell that he is the leader of the family. Kanwoo. How about Kanwoo? The character can refer to the use of force to quell disputes, and Jianwoo referred to the use of war to stop war. If we can convince people with reason and rule the country with virtue, that would naturally be the best. But if others want a foot after taking an inch, we are not weaklings that can be bullied by others. If they want a war, then we will fight and stop the war with war. How was it? My little Kanwoo. Ow ow ow, Kanwoo used his 2 front claws to protect his food, taking the time to respond to Gu Mengmeng in his busy schedule. Without waiting for Gu Mengmeng to turn around, Elvis translated, he said it's very good, he likes it. Gu Mengmeng smiled in satisfaction and nodded the leader's head, calling, Hada. Ow, boss responded in a childish voice. Gu Mengmeng patted the little butt of the 4th brother again and called, Kanwoo. Ow ow, the 4th brother shook his butt in an extremely flashy manner and wagged his tail happily. Aside from the topic. Chapter 313. After deciding on the 1st and 4th brothers' names, Gu Mengmeng turned to look at the 2nd and 3rd brother. These 2 younger ones were much more obedient than the other 2. They were sitting in a row, waiting to be named. Gu Mengmeng stroked her little head and said, my 2nd brother has extraordinary looks and is worthy of the word, Xian. But, Emperor Xuanyuan's Xian was also like this. The name is too heavy and will affect one's luck. How about this? In any case, the word, Xian, also refers to the Xian Gong star in the sky. Let's add a pond in front of the word, Xian, implying that my 2nd son is the reflection of the Xian Gong star in the pond. The stars in the water are also stars. In my mother's eyes, they are very bright. Okay. Roar, 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 2nd brother puffed out his chest, indicating that he was satisfied. Gu Mengmeng smiled and kissed the 2nd brother, then looked at the 3rd brother. She thought for a while and said, the 1st brother is virtuous, the 2nd brother is handsome and the 4th brother is strong. But being brave without being astute is just an ordinary man. My son needs to be both wise and brave. 3rd bro, let's use the word, strategy, the word for strategy. Be the brains of the 4 brothers and cooperate with the other brothers to bring glory to Saint Nazir in the future. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and said, adding a jia in front of the word lu is to give this child some Buddha's heart and Buddha's nature, or else, if he is harboring evil intentions, he will only be a waste of his intelligence and wisdom. He might as well be a fool. I want my son to put his intelligence to good use, to be a kind-hearted and intelligent person. Gu Mengmeng turned around and asked Elvis, what do you think? How about the name Jiaoyu? Actually, Gu Mengmeng did not consider these things in the beast world. Kindness? What was the point? What was Buddha nature? In this world, there was only the survival of the fittest. But Elvis would never tell Gu Mengmeng these words. Females were supposed to live in a beautiful fairy tale fantasy, and it was the responsibility of males to create and protect this fantasy. So, Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead lightly and said, whatever you like is good. Gu Mengmeng smiled and turned to look at her son, asking, baby, what do you think? Do you like the name Jiaoyu? Actually, not only did Jiaoyu not understand Gu Mengmeng's explanation just now, even Elvis might not have understood it. But Jiaoyu remembered that his mother had told him not to go against his parents, or else his mother would cry in sadness. He did not want his mother to cry, so since his mother wanted him to be called Jiaoyu, then he would be called Jiaoyu. So little Jiaoyu nodded and even nudged his head against Gu Mengmeng's palm. He was obedient and considerate towards his mother. Heda, Qixuan, Jiaoyu, Kanwoo. Gu Mengmeng called out the names of her 4 sons one by one. The 4 little fellows were like musicians under the direction of a musician, raising their heads in response when their names were called. The other 2 stopped drinking milk and only used their hands to lay on Gu Mengmeng's chest, raising their upper bodies to respond to their mother's call. That's great, my precious sons all have names. Gu Mengmeng smiled brightly and gently. To Elvis, this was the most beautiful scene in the world. Leah carried the meat soup in just in time. After setting up the pot, he scooped a portion of the soup onto a large plate and placed it on the bed. He called out to the wolf cubs and the 4 little fellows ran to the side of the plate happily to start drinking the soup. There was no need for Gu Mengmeng to demonstrate at the side. Gu Mengmeng was surprised and raised her head to ask, "They can understand your words?" Leah nodded and said, "Yeah, I have always been more talented in languages than the rest and I have been with Elvis for a long time, so I know how to communicate with the wolf cubs." Gu Mengmeng faintly felt that she had discovered something and asked, "Then why didn't you just use your language to teach them how to drink the soup just now and insisted on me demonstrating?" Leah shrugged his shoulders innocently, then pointed at Elvis and said, "Because he wanted to see." Gu Mengmeng turned around and Elvis was shocked. He rubbed his nose and said, he was the one who came up with the idea. Aside from the topic, thank you, coward, for tipping 100 points. Chapter 314. 2 weeks later, Kanwu was the first to open his eyes. The son Elvis hated the most had a pair of eyes that resembled him the most. It was the same azure blue, like the sea of stars, captivating people. It was just that this pair of eyes was clearer and more transparent, filled with curiosity and yearning for everything, without the coldness and vicissitudes unique to Elvis. Gu Mengmeng was overjoyed. She held Kanwu's little face and looked at his eyes carefully, then looked at Elvis's eyes and smiled. "You are really biological children, aren't you two similar? You are the cartoon version, while Kanwu is the Q version. Ah, so loving." Elvis already harbored animosity and even murderous intent towards this little brat who caused Gu Mengmeng to suffer so much during the childbirth process. It was because of him that Gu Mengmeng suffered a stab to her body, and that stab was personally inflicted by him. At that moment, every drop of blood that Gu Mengmeng shed laid the foundation for him to despise this son in his heart. Elvis held onto Gu Mengmeng's waist, grabbed the back of Kanwu's neck and threw him back onto the bed. Then, he used his other hand to hook Gu Mengmeng's little face and stared straight into her eyes. "One pair of eyes like this is enough. Just look at me, don't look at him." Gu Mengmeng glared at Elvis. "How can you be like this? That is your biological son." Elvis lifted his chin, the corners of his lips turned downwards. He frowned and did not say a word. Gu Mengmeng sighed helplessly. This kind of daily struggle between father and son for attention really tired her out both physically and mentally. She could not even play with her son properly. Their father was a vinegar jar. "Kanwu just opened his eyes today and it's his first time seeing us. Can you be more friendly? On account that I fought so hard to give birth to him, why don't you give me a smile?" Elvis's face turned even colder. He glared daggers at Kanwu. "You almost lost your life to give birth to him." Gu Mengmeng used her elbow to poke Elvis's chest. "Then may I ask, which brother put them into my stomach?" Elvis was speechless. He frowned and lowered his head. Gu Mengmeng shook Elvis's arm and pleaded. All right, no matter what, isn't it good that our family is safe and sound now? Don't spoil the mood, smile." Elvis was helpless and forced the corners of his lips to curve upwards. But rather than saying it was a smile, it was better to say that he was baring his teeth. It was a very strange expression, as if he was threatening his opponent with a face full of unwillingness. Or perhaps, it was a little like a husky at the dentist's office. Gu Mengmeng could not help but laugh. She placed her palms together in front of her chest and said in an extremely exaggerated tone, "So handsome." Elvis was amused by Gu Mengmeng. His gaze was always gentle when it met hers. Only then was Gu Mengmeng satisfied. She leaned into Elvis's arms and said, "Isn't this good, a family, harmonious and beautiful?" Elvis caressed Gu Mengmeng's head and kissed her hair. He said in a helpless and doting tone, "As long as you're happy, I'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng skipped to the side of the bed and carried Kanwu, who had just been thrown onto the bed. She kissed his little face and then placed Kanwu on Elvis's head. She smiled and said, TSK TSK TSK, is this the legendary fatherly love as heavy as a mountain? Hubby, to be honest, you look super stalwart and manly with Kanwoo on your head. Elvis really did not like Kanwoo, but he treasured Gumengmeng's smile. So even though he was unwilling, he did not throw Kanwoo down. But, he was willing, but it did not mean that Kanwoo was willing too. A gush of warm liquid flowed down from the top of Elvis's head. Green veins popped up on Elvis's forehead instantly. Gumengmeng had never reacted so quickly in her life. She hugged Kanwoo from Elvis's head and protected him in her arms. Then, the cave echoed with Elvis's, "Come over, I promise I won't beat you to death," and Gumengmeng's laughter and pleading for mercy on behalf of her son. Aside from the topic, this is the end of the explosive updates. All my babies, remember to join the group and participate in the activities. Please refer to the announcement in this article for the details of the activities. Also, after today's update, Wenwen's VIP group will be officially opened. After the activities, the method to join the VIP group will be announced in the group. After joining the V group, there will be no need to go online to look at Meet. Susu will directly send the document to the group also. From today onwards, there will be no more side events in the group. After all, side events are benefits for the babies who support Susu. Susu's meat, not everyone can eat it right. Chapter 315. Among the four sons, the third Jiaoyu's eyes were the most similar to Gumengmeng's. They were coffee-colored and looked a little like amber. Moreover, Jiaoyu's eyes were bigger and rounder than Gumengmeng's, making him look more innocent and adorable. Because of this pair of eyes, Jiaoyu was the only one among the four sons who could receive a smile from Elvis. 5 weeks later, Elvis and Leah unanimously agreed to let Gumengmeng wean all four sons. This made Gumengmeng very, very resistant. Whose child can only drink milk for a little more than a month? It's normal for us to feed them until they are 1 year old. Even if the situation doesn't allow it, we should at least feed them for a full 8 months, right? Gumengmeng held Elvis's hand and fought for her sons. Little Jiaoyu was lying on Elvis's shoulder. He howled twice, but no one knew what he was saying. But Gumengmeng immediately said, "Look, our sons already said that just a little more than a month is too little. This is abuse, inhumane abuse." Elvis looked up and met Gumengmeng's eyes. He replied seriously, "I am a wolf and I don't have any humanity." Moreover, Jiaoyu said that they have already started to grow teeth and can eat the meat cooked by Leah. It doesn't matter if they are weaned. Gumengmeng looked at Leah doubtfully and asked, "Really? Jiaoyu really said that?" Leah nodded, indicating that Elvis was telling the truth. Elvis's face darkened. "I won't lie to you." Gumengmeng carried Jiaoyu down from Elvis's shoulders, turned around and secretly tapped his little nose. She lowered her voice and said, "Mummy is helping you fight for your welfare, why did you change sides?" Elvis was stunned. Elvis stood up and hugged Gumengmeng's waist from behind. He rested his chin on her neck and said gently, "Because this fellow has half of your blood, so he has humanity and a conscience. He knows that squeezing Mummy for nutrition is wrong. As males, they should rely on themselves to survive." Gumengmeng shrugged her shoulders and said unhappily, "What do you mean by relying on themselves to survive? Is there something wrong with you?" Leah struck up a conversation at the right time. "They have already started to grow teeth. If they don't stop breastfeeding soon, they might accidentally scratch your skin. In order to protect you, they will habitually eat with their gums, which will hinder the growth of their fangs. In the future, if they encounter danger, fangs that are not sharp enough may kill them." But Gumengmeng wanted to retort, but she suddenly realized how weak her rebuttal was. Yes, she and Elvis could protect the little wolves now, but could she protect them forever and not let them be independent? What was taken for granted in the modern world had become spoiled here. Gumengmeng fell into deep thought, feeling a little down. She didn't know what she was feeling melancholy about. She just felt that her son wasn't as dependent on her anymore. Jiaoyu held twice in Gumengmeng's arms. His childish voice was especially lovable. Gu Mengmeng kissed his little head and said, "You guys don't need a mother so soon." Jiaoyu's face turned red. Jiaoyu wagged his tail and stuck out his little tongue to lick Gu Mengmeng's face. Then, he tilted his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng. He did not say anything, but Gu Mengmeng could feel his concern. "Are you comforting Mummy?" Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "Mummy is too useless. She actually let a 5-week-old baby comfort her." "Ow ow," the other 3 little ones also gathered around Gu Mengmeng's feet. Their front paws clung onto her calves as they howled in a childish manner, as if they were saying, "Mummy, don't worry, we won't leave you." Aside from the topic, "Come, babies, the quiz is starting. Please listen to the question." Chapter 3:16. In the 3rd week after the little wolves were weaned, the snow-sealed cave entrance started to loosen. Gusts of cold wind blew in, bringing with it a chill but no longer piercing to the bone. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and walked to the cave entrance. With a seemingly effortless push, the snow sealing the cave entrance scattered outwards like a plate of loose sand. Actually, the scene that Gu Mengmeng was looking at was not aesthetically pleasing. It was completely different from the scene of early spring. Instead, the unmelted snow had divided Saint Nazaire into many ravines. Although there was no pollution from car exhaust and the melted snow was still white and clear, Gu Mengmeng did not have any intention of stepping out of the cave. However, only Gu Mengmeng did not want to step out of the cave. It was the first time the 4 little ones saw the situation outside the cave. Everything was too novel to them. Without waiting for Gu Mengmeng's instructions, the 4 little ones had already dashed into the snowy water. The snowy water was ice cold, but it was not an obstacle to them. Although their fur was not as thick as Elvis's, they could still withstand this level of cold. Whether it was the smell of the air or the touch of the snow beneath their feet, they all made the little ones extremely excited. The 4 little ones chased and played like 4 little lunatics. "Babies, come back quickly, it's so dirty." Gu Mengmeng shouted, but why would the 4 little ones, who had gone crazy from playing, care about her? They had long become wet dirty cats in the snow. They looked, just like a husky playing in the mud. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis resentfully and frowned, saying, "I suspect that you have the bloodline of a husky, but you are actually a husky disguised as a wolf, right?" Elvis was helpless. Although he still did not know who a husky was, it was obviously not a good word. Because Gu Mengmeng would only have such thoughts every time he made a fool of himself or when the 4 little ones were too mischievous. "I'll go catch them back." Elvis shook his body and transformed into a wolf. He dashed into the snow and bit the back of Kanwa's neck in an instant. He muttered something with his throat and the other 3 little ones immediately lowered their heads, not daring to act rashly again. They followed behind Elvis with their tails tucked between their legs and walked back obediently. Gu Mengmeng was very curious, so she asked Leah secretly, "What did Elvis say to them?" Leah pretended to be in deep thought and dragged out the last syllable, for a long time. Then, instead of answering, he asked, "What benefits would I get if I betray Elvis? After all, he's the first partner of the family and I'm just a pet. What if he gets angry and kills me?" Gu Mengmeng placed one hand on Li's shoulder and looked at him with an expression of, "I surrender to you. Can we not talk about the beast pet? Can't we just be normal friends? Ordinary friends?" Leah savored those 4 words before turning his head. "I will not betray the first partner of the family for an ordinary friend. I will be chased out." Pfft. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. In the end, he still classified her as a beast pet. As he spoke, Elvis had already returned. He transformed into a human and threw Kanwa on the ground. He wrapped his arms around Gu Mengmeng's waist and said, "I told them, if they don't listen to my wife, they can scram out of my cave." Gu Mengmeng facepalmed. She should have thought of that. How could Elvis coax children with gentle words? How could it be right? Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling of Xiaoxiang Academy, Lazy Silkworm Baby and No. For your monthly votes and evaluation votes, and thank you to the little darling of QQ Reading, Big Willful, and Wife, for their 99 reading points. Chapter 317. In the end, Gu Mengmeng did not manage to hide back into the cave. Elvis transformed into a wolf and shook the black fur on his body. Leah carried Gu Mengmeng onto Elvis's back while he followed behind Elvis. His large tail swept across Gu Mengmeng's back from time to time, in a flirtatious manner. Just as Leah had said, he was dutifully playing the role of a vixen that was allowed by the legal wife. The 4 little ones were forbidden from running around on the snowy ground because of their mother. After all, they were still too young and could not transform like Elvis to get rid of the dirt on their bodies. If their fur remained wet, Gu Mengmeng was worried that they would catch a cold. So, Jiaoyu, the only one that Elvis liked, laid beside Gu Mengmeng's legs obediently, near Elvis's shoulder. The oldest, Heda, was carried in Gu Mengmeng's arms, acting cute to his mother from time to time. Second brother Qi lay on Li's shoulder, his big eyes darting around. Everything he saw was novel and exciting. His 2 front paws tapped and clawed at Li's shoulder, whimpering in a childish voice that no one knew what he was saying. The most mischievous Kanwo was carried in Li's arms because he was really too naughty. He kept wanting to run onto the ground and howled a few times, saying that he wanted to walk by himself. He only restrained himself after Elvis glared at him. He did not dare to make a fuss in the open, but he kept trying to escape from Li's arms secretly. Leah pinched his 2 hind legs and patted his little butt lightly with his other hand. He said in beast language, "The level pressure is insurmountable. If you want to escape from my hands, you have to at least wait until you mate. So, you better give up. I won't let you do anything that will make your mother frown." Gu Mengmeng did not understand what he was saying. She turned back to look at Leah and Kanwo. The 2 of them pretended that nothing had happened and smiled at Gu Mengmeng pretentiously. Elvis brought the whole family to the platform of the deity's punishment. It was very magical. The surroundings were filled with snowy water, except for this piece of rock which was very dry. Elvis leaped up and then laid down to let Gu Mengmeng down. When Gu Mengmeng carried her 2 sons and jumped down from Elvis's beast body, Leah had already transformed into a fox. He coiled his body in a nursing position and used his mouth to bite Gu Mengmeng's clothes, signaling her to sit on him. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Today is the day when winter ends. The tribesmen will all be coming over later. You are the tribe's witch doctor after all, you still need some face. Quickly change back." Leah did not force her. He just stood up and shook his body twice. His fluffy white fur looked like he was filming a shampoo commercial. But Leah did not transform into his human form, neither did Elvis. The 2 of them stood side by side at the edge of the platform of the deity's punishment. They didn't talk to each other, but they looked up to the sky and roared in unison. Howl! As Elvis and Lee's cries stopped, the cries of different beasts echoed from afar. Roar! Ao ao! Then, Gu Mengmeng saw ferocious beasts approaching them one after another. If it was in the past, Gu Mengmeng would definitely feel very scared. But now, she only felt very happy. That was great. Everyone had successfully survived the winter. She had been worried that she would not be able to see many familiar faces again after the beginning of spring. That was great. Aside from the topic, thank you to Xiaoxiang Academy's baby, Sway, for giving me 2 monthly tickets. So touched. Chapter 318. Gu Mengmeng wanted to find someone she was familiar with among the beasts, but to her, everyone's beast form was no different from normal wild beasts. She really could not tell who was who. However, it was easy to distinguish the female sitting on the back of the male beast. From afar, Gu Mengmeng saw a soft and adorable girl wearing an oversized beast skin dress. She was rubbing her eyes as she sat on the back of a golden cheetah, walking towards them. Gu Mengmeng recognized that pair of ears, but did not dare to recognize that face. She had a slender waist, long legs and arms that were even slimmer than Gu Mengmeng's. She had a small oval face and big watery eyes that carried a sleepiness unique to spring. She looked like she was still in love, and when she saw Gu Mengmeng from afar, a sweet smile bloomed on her face. She waved and shouted, "Gu Mengmeng, Gu Mengmeng." Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and hesitated for a moment before calling out, "You are Sandy." Sandy pouted, clearly unhappy. She grumbled, "It's only been a winter since we last met, why do you look like you don't know me?" Gu Mengmeng could not help but clap her hands and exclaim, "Damn, how did you spend the winter? Did you go to Korea for plastic surgery and liposuction?" Howl. The golden cheetah that was carrying Sandy lowered its head and scratched the ground with its front paws, making a sound that no one knew what it was trying to say. Sandy smiled and hugged the cheetah's head to kiss it. "It's good enough that we survived, who wouldn't be skinny? Don't worry, I will work harder to eat more this year. This way, I will be fatter next spring." Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched as she squatted beside Sandy. She pointed at the cheetah and asked, "This fellow is Bode?" Sandy nodded and said, "Yes, I only have one partner, Bode, who is a cheetah." Gu Mengmeng asked again, "Why doesn't he transform into a human? Is he pretending to be a naughty cheetah?" Sandy smiled and said, "Although we have more food stored this year than in previous years, it is still not enough to fill their stomachs. It's already not easy for all of them to survive. They don't even have the energy to transform into a human now. But when the tribe leader brings everyone out to hunt and have a full meal, they should be able to transform back by the time they return." Gu Mengmeng replied with an "oh," not really understanding, thinking to herself that he was just starving. Just as she was about to say something, the four little ones could no longer hold back their excitement and rushed to Gu Mengmeng's feet. They circled around her, wagging their heads and wagging their tails as they howled. Gu Mengmeng patted their little heads and asked, "What's wrong? Didn't you just eat when you left? Are you hungry again?" Roar, 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 the little fellows shook their heads vigorously. "Then what do you want to do?" Gu Mengmeng felt a deep sense of sorrow. Damn, she actually had a language barrier with her own son. Sandy held Gu Mengmeng's hand in disbelief, her eyes widened to an unprecedented degree. She pointed at the four little ones and stammered, Gu Mengmeng, these are your sons. You gave birth during the winter. You gave birth to him." Gu Mengmeng found it rather funny and pulled Jiaoyu, who was lying on her knees, into her arms with one hand. She pressed her face against Jiaoyu's and said, "You are my biological son, I guarantee it. How was it? Don't they look like me?" Sandy nodded her head like a pounding garlic, the admiration on her face had already broken through the horizon. Tears welled up in her eyes and she was about to lose control of her emotions. She hugged Gu Mengmeng excitedly and said incoherently, "That's great, that's great. We finally have cubs." Aside from the topic, thank you to the baby of Xiaoxiang Academy, Orchid Jade Tree, for the 4 monthly tickets and 1 flower. Love you. Chapter 319. The corners of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Why was Sandy's words so misleading? She made it sound like she had given birth to this child with her. Ow ow ow. Jiaoyu was sandwiched between Sandy and Gu Mengmeng, almost suffocating. He struggled to escape, but this strong auntie was so strong despite looking so skinny. His struggles were futile, and he could only let out a miserable howl in hopes of attracting his mother's attention. But luckily, Sandy immediately let go of Jiaoyu's cry. She wiped her tears and said embarrassedly, Sorry, I was too agitated. Saint Nazir finally has a nest of cubs, there is finally hope for our tribe." Gu Mengmeng knew that Saint Nazir was founded by Leah and Elvis. Ever since it was founded, only Nina had conceived a nest of eaglets, but because of Nina's perverted and twisted mentality, this nest of eaglets had all died in her father's hands. And after that, Saint Nazir did not have any more cubs born. Every winter, a batch of male beasts would die, and during the spring beauty pageant, the tribe's first beauty would come forward to attract a new batch of male beasts to the tribe to replenish their numbers. But no one knew how many of these replenishing members would survive the next year, so the cohesiveness of Saint Nazir was not as strong as other tribes with strong reproductive abilities. Because there were only 2 core members in Saint Nazir, Leah and Elvis. The other males who had already mated would follow their females. If one day the female was unhappy and wanted to leave Saint Nazir, the males would definitely follow her. And the males who did not mate would most likely take a liking to a female from another tribe during the beauty pageant the next year, and run off with her, so, it was a very important matter to have their own cubs. This meant that the number of core members in the tribe would increase. Of course, it would be even better if they could give birth to a female cub, because if it was a female cub from the tribe leader's family, then her partners would all become the core of the tribe, which was the strongest cohesiveness of the tribe. However, to a tribe like Saint Nazir which had always been short of manpower, it was already a joyous occasion for them to have these 4 new troops. So, Nina could not be blamed for being so agitated. Gu Mengmeng patted Sandy's hand and said, "Hey, don't be so agitated. Maybe you can give birth to a female cub for our tribe this year." At that time. How about a betrothal? Sandy tilted her head and asked, "What is a child betrothal?" Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and called the 4 little ones over. Then, she said, "In the future, if you give birth to a male baby, let them become brothers. They can help each other and support each other. If you gave birth to a female." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her nose and smiled awkwardly, "Just let her choose one of our sons that she is satisfied with and prioritize him." Gu Mengmeng also did not want to arrange her son's marriage so early, but the ratio of males and females in this world was too abnormal, she could not possibly let her son be a bachelor forever, right? It would be fine if he was always single, but what if he met a perverted female like Nina? Rather than that, Gu Mengmeng was more willing to let her son be with Sandy's girl. At least they could get to know each other. Sandy was a gentle woman, and her daughter was no worse. Moreover, they were from the same tribe. If they really gave birth to a female cub, Gu Mengmeng would naturally teach her well as a daughter-in-law. Aside from the topic, thank you to Xiaoxiang Academy's baby, 13080716417, for the 3 monthly tickets. True love indeed, you left all the tickets for me, right? Chapter 320. Alright. Sandy agreed readily and smiled sweetly, "If I can really give birth to a female cub, I will let her choose your son as her first partner." Gu Mengmeng laughed happily and pushed her sons' butts. "Hey brats, aren't you going to greet your future mother-in-law?" "Mother-in-law?" Sandy tilted her head and asked. "It means the mother beast of one's female partner. We call it mother-in-law over there." Gu Mengmeng explained. "Then what should the father beast of the female partner be called?" Sandy asked. "Father-in-law." Gu Mengmeng answered without hesitation. Sandy tapped her chin and thought for a while before saying, "So Elvis has to call Leah father-in-law now?" Pfft. Gu Mengmeng choked on her own saliva. She laughed dryly, "Your burning heart for gossip, can't you think of something else?" Sandy chuckled and said, "Seeing that you and Elvis have finally become partners, I feel much more at ease. You don't even know how worried I was that you would leave Saint Nazir. I even thought that if you were to leave, no matter where you go, I will follow you. Although Saint Nazir is really important to me and my life here has always been stable, I don't want to leave you." Sandy hugged Gu Mengmeng's waist and said coquettishly. Gu Mengmeng patted Sang's back as if she was coaxing a child and said, not leaving, I am still waiting for my son to marry your daughter." The 4 little ones were completely uninterested in things like mother-in-law, especially when this mother-in-law occupied their mother the moment she came. Usually, their mother would hug them, but now, she was hugging this auntie with monstrous strength. TSK, so disgusted. The 4 little ones snorted and ran to one side to play. Seeing that the 4 little ones had left, Sandy then sat up straight and asked softly, "Where is Elvis's mark on your body? Can I see it?" Gu Mengmeng tugged at her collar and revealed her collarbone. A black wolf stood there arrogantly, with its head held high and chest puffed out, looking valiant and formidable. Ah, it's already so close to the heart. He must be overjoyed, right? Sandy nudged Gu Mengmeng lightly in a flirtatious manner, then glanced at Elvis from the corner of her eyes. She covered her mouth and giggled. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and said, "Actually, I feel a little guilty. It would be great if I could imprint it on my heart. Now. I always feel like I'm being disloyal." Sandy shook her head in disagreement and said, "His imprint wasn't branded on your heart, which proves that he didn't work hard enough. How can you be blamed for this?" Gu Mengmeng smiled but did not retort. Because she knew that the concept of the beast world was different from hers. No matter what she said, Sandy would not be able to understand. So Gu Mengmeng changed the topic and asked, "What about you? Where is your mate Mark? Why haven't I seen it before?" Sandy turned around and moved the tube top upwards. Gu Mengmeng saw Bode's mark where the tube top was originally covering. "Ah, on my back. It's also very close to the heart." Sandy nodded and said, "Of course, he's my first partner after all. If you don't like him, why would you choose him?" Gu Mengmeng nodded, then asked, "What about the others? Don't you have 8 partners?" Sandy nodded and lifted her beast-skin skirt. On her thighs were a bear and a wolf. Gu Mengmeng knew the bear was a dolly, the one who was almost beaten to death by Nina's partners before winter. Gu Mengmeng also knew the wolf, but she could not remember its name. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little babies from Xiaoxiang Academy, QQ3A811FB6E1042, Fang Shuer, Drunk Meng Qianro, and Mao was for their monthly votes. Love you all, Wax. Chapter 321. Gu Mengmeng was just about to gossip about Sandy and her new partner, Bailey, when she saw another female walking towards them from the bustling crowd of beasts. Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched and she sneered, "Why is it that you look like you went through plastic surgery this winter, but this fellow is still as fat and ugly as before?" Sandy followed Gu Mengmeng's gaze and twitched her lips. "She's like this every year. I wonder how many of her partners she has eaten this year." Gu Mengmeng's hair stood on end and she looked at Sandy as if she had seen a ghost. "She eats her partners every year?" Sandy nodded and said, "To her, partners are like stored food during winter." Therefore, she didn't reject any of the males who expressed their love to her and accepted them all. But some males don't even have the chance to mate and become food in her stomach. "Here, look." As Sandy spoke, she used her fingers to count the heads of Nina's family, but Gu Mengmeng heard that she was not counting, but reading names. After counting once, she said, "Quentin and a few first-level orcs who joined Saint Nazir last year are missing." Hearing Sandy's words, Gu Mengmeng then took a closer look at Nina's partners. Indeed, there was no eagle. Although Gu Mengmeng could not recognize the male beast in his beast form, Quentin was the only eagle beast in the entire Saint Nazir. What's more, he had the same size as the eagle in the Return of the Condor heroes. Moreover, with Quentin's hands, she could recognize him no matter how hard she tried. And with a glance, Quentin was indeed nowhere to be seen. Gu Mengmeng went to count again, 28. Nina's partners were only left with 28. Gu Mengmeng asked softly, "Elvis said that every year at the beginning of spring, everyone in the tribe will come out to participate in the first hunt, and no one will stay in the cave to look after the house. Is that true?" Sandy nodded as a reply. Gu Mengmeng asked again, "So all her males are here?" Sandy still nodded. Gu Mengmeng felt a wave of nausea in her stomach. She forced herself to suppress it before saying, "Elvis said she had a total of 43 partners and now there are only 28 left. That means she ate 15 of her partners this winter?" Sandy counted her fingers and said with some embarrassment, "I only know that Nina originally had 43 partners. This is the number that Leah counted, it can't be wrong. But how many are there now, and how many are missing? I don't know how to count, so I can't tell." Gu Mengmeng patted Sandy's arm and said, "She is so perverted, why are there still males willing to mate with her? Don't you want to live anymore?" Sandy smacked his lips and said, even if they know that they might become her next meal, many males are still willing to exchange their lives for the right to mate with her. After all, if they could get a perfect female to give birth to a powerful cub, in the eyes of the males, even death would be worth it. Gu Mengmeng sneered and looked at her husband. Thinking of his attitude towards his sons, she really could not agree with Sandy's thinking. Not every male valued their cub, or maybe, they just did not believe that another male's tragedy would repeat itself on them. They always fantasized that they were special, different, and could become someone that Nina cared about, someone important to her. But they did not understand an old saying, a leopard can't change its spots. To put it bluntly, a dog can't change its spots. Nina's nature was selfish and twisted. No matter how passionate her love was, it could not warm her heart that was as hard as a rock. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling of Xiaoxiang Academy, Yusheng 1-2, for gifting 9 flowers. Does it mean forever? So romantic. Chapter 322. As she spoke, Nina had already walked in front of Gu Mengmeng. She smiled in what she thought was a flirtatious manner, but when her gaze landed on Heda and his brothers, her bean-sized eyes were filled with a viciousness that could not even be contained in the universe. You actually gave birth to wolf cubs during winter? Nina looked at Gu Mengmeng with a twisted expression. The flesh on her face trembled, clearly filled with anger and jealousy. Gu Mengmeng did not want to talk to her. She called her sons and pulled Sandy back. Nina did not want to let Gu Mengmeng leave. She grabbed onto Gu Mengmeng's arm from behind. Gu Mengmeng instinctively took a step back and leaned forward. She held on to Nina's wrist and exerted strength from her waist, doing a beautiful shoulder throw. Nina was thrown onto the ground with her limbs spread out. She was in so much pain that she was moaning. Seeing that Nina dared to bully their mother, the 4 little ones bared their teeth and rushed to Nina's side, biting her hand that was grabbing onto Gu Mengmeng just now. Ouch! Little brats, why aren't you letting go? I'm a precious complete female, how dare you bite me? I'm going to ask my males to kill you. Nina swung her arm with all her might, trying to shake the 4 little ones off. But how could the 4 little ones be afraid when they were angry? If someone bullied their mother, not to mention a fat chicken, even if it was their father, the 4 of them would still bite him. Gu Mengmeng stepped on Nina's shoulder, causing Nina, who had just sat up, to fall back onto the ground. She leaned forward and placed her elbows on her knees. She squinted at Nina and asked coldly, "Who do you want to ask your males to kill?" Gu Mengmeng's expression was especially terrifying. Nina bit her lower lip and did not dare to reply. She was in so much pain that her tears flowed freely. She turned to look at her partners and roared, "I'm being bullied like this and you're just going to stand there and watch?" Nina's partners were actually very embarrassed too. Although the 4 little ones were males, they were cubs after all. And not only were they the cubs of the tribe leader and the messenger of the beast deity, they were also the first cubs of Saint Nazir. They had an extraordinary significance to the entire tribe. They really couldn't bring themselves to do anything to a cub. Moreover, the person stepping on Nina was Gu Mengmeng. Not only was she a female, she was also the messenger of the beast deity. She was an existence that they did not dare to offend. If the one stepping on Nina was Elvis or Leah, then even if they knew they couldn't win, they could at most risk their lives for Nina. But now, how could they move? If you want to do something for your partner, you can challenge me. Leah was purely there to watch the show. He transformed into a human and stood behind Gu Mengmeng with a smile, facing Nina's partners who were hesitating but were at a loss of what to do. "Oh, let me introduce myself. I am Gu Mengmeng's beast pet, Leah." After Leah finished speaking, the entire Saint Nazir fell into a strange silence. Gu Mengmeng just wanted to slap Leah to death. What he said was equivalent to cutting off her own path of retreat. If Gu Mengmeng stood out to deny it now, it would be equivalent to abandoning Leah. With his status and reputation, the entire beast world would probably know that he had degenerated to become a beast pet and was even abandoned. He was betting his entire life, betting that if she still cared for him a little, she would not deny it in front of everyone. But, he won. Gu Mengmeng sighed. In the end, she did not say, he's not, on the spot. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Xiaoxiang Academy, Snow on the Streets, for the flowers. Chapter 323. What? You actually became a beast pet for her? Nina could not care less about the 4 wolf cubs that were still biting her on her arm. She used all her strength to push Gu Mengmeng away and crawled up from the ground, rushing towards Leah to grab his arm. But Leah dodged beautifully and said in disgust, "Don't touch me, Gu Mengmeng won't like it if you dirty me." "But you already said that you want to mate with me, how can you become Gu Mengmeng's beast pet?" Nina did not give up and went forward to grab Leah again. Leah frowned and took another step back, replying, "If you come any closer, I will make you my first prey this spring." You also know, chickens are originally in the fox's diet. Nina looked at Leah in disbelief but did not dare to pounce on him again. She pointed at Gu Mengmeng but her eyes were looking at Leah. She said in a voice that sounded like she was scratching the wall with her nails, "You are a proper partner after mating with me. Now that Quentin is dead, I can even make you my first partner. I even promised you that I will give birth to a nest of little foxes for you this year, but you actually gave up on me and chose to become a beast pet for her." "I did not give up on you," Leah said seriously, "you were never in my choice of partner. In my heart, the only person who can be my partner has always been my Gu Mengmeng. You." Nina was so ridiculed that she could not say anything. The hand that was pointing at Gu Mengmeng was trembling. Gu Mengmeng went forward and twisted Nina's outstretched finger. With a cracking sound, Nina's finger was bent into a weird angle along with a scream like a pig being slaughtered, directly sticking onto the back of Gu Mengmeng's hand. "Didn't I tell you not to provoke me? Huh? On the first day of the new year, I did not look for you to settle the score, but you came to show off in front of me? Are you itching for a beating after being a cat for an entire winter?" After Gu Mengmeng finished speaking, she flung Nina's hand away harshly and called her 4 sons back, saying, "Do you use your mouth to bite all kinds of dirty things? Aren't you afraid of having a stomachache? Go play with your future mother-in-law." The 4 little ones howled in defiance. Sandy picked them up and comforted them, "Be good, don't worry. Your mommy won't lose out. She is Gu Mengmeng." The 4 little ones tilted their heads and looked at Sandy, then at their father, Elvis, who was quietly standing at a high place and looking down at everything. They felt that Sandy was right. Given how protective their father was of his wife, he would not stand by and watch calmly if the beast mother was in even the slightest bit of danger. Thinking about this, the 4 little ones quietened down and obediently stayed in Sandy's arms. They imitated their father's face and watched Gu Mengmeng teach Nina a lesson. Chapter 324. As Gu Mengmeng said, she raised her elbow and used her body's strength to smash Nina, who was pinned on her body and had nowhere to hide. She hit Nina's nose again. Nina howled in pain. Her face was covered in blood and her original appearance could not be seen anymore. Behind Gu Mengmeng, Nina's partners were already fighting with Leah. Perhaps this was the so-called suppression of strength. Leah did not even transform into his beast form and he was still able to handle the situation of 1 against 28. Rather than saying it was a battle, it was more like he was toying with them. Gu Mengmeng was not careless either. In the past, when she beat Nina, it was mostly because she was a bitch and was annoying. Gu Mengmeng had the intention to teach her a lesson, so she always showed mercy. However, after knowing that Nina had been eating her partner every year, her disgust for Nina had reached its peak. Therefore, when she heard that Nina wanted to kill her son, it was like throwing a lighter into a pile of gunpowder. It would be strange if it did not explode. If someone else said this, Gu Mengmeng might treat it as a joke that was not very funny and was just scaring a kid. But Gu Mengmeng did not dare to slight Nina. A person who could even eat her partners without any hesitation, what other perverted things would she not do? For her sons, Gu Mengmeng had the intention to kill this time. Raising a rock from the side, Gu Mengmeng aimed at Nina's head and was about to smash it. The rock stopped in front of Nina's face. Gu Mengmeng looked up and saw Elvis standing in front of her with the rock in his hand, looking down at her. Gu Mengmeng looked a little disheveled. Her hair was already in a mess and her body was covered in Nina's blood. When she saw Elvis, her eyes were watery. She was the one who kept beating them up, but she just felt so wronged. Looking up at Elvis, Gu Mengmeng said, "She said she wants to kill our sons." Elvis nodded and took the rock from Gu Mengmeng's hand and threw it to the side. Then, he carried Gu Mengmeng up from Nina's body and wiped her blood-stained face gently and carefully. He said, "If she has the ability, go ahead and kill them." "Hubby." Gu Mengmeng's grievances instantly turned into tears as she stared at Elvis in disbelief. But Elvis laughed. He glanced at Nina, who was almost beaten to death by Gu Mengmeng, with disdain, and said, "I don't care what happens to those 4 wolf pups. But if you and your partner dare to make Xiaomeng sad." Before Elvis could finish his sentence, he snorted coldly and emitted a strong pressure. In just a moment, everyone around the platform of the deity's punishment, including Leah, felt their knees were so heavy that they could not stand straight. Leah was slightly better off than the rest. He only knelt down on one knee in submission, while the rest were pressed to the ground, unable to move. The weaker ones fainted on the spot. Gu Mengmeng did not feel anything towards the beast pressure, she just felt that Elvis's cruel and cold expression was so handsome. So she wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck like a little bird and whimpered, "Hubby is mighty." Elvis did not say anything else. He shook his body and retracted his pressure. He glanced sideways at the 4 little ones who were playing around Sandy without a care in the world and raised his eyebrows. Even Leah, an adult 3rd-level beast, could not withstand the pressure, but these 4 were actually fine. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby, Yunling Feng, from Xiaoxiang Academy for the 5 monthly votes and 1 evaluation vote. Today's update has ended. Continue tomorrow. Chapter 325. Elvis handed Gu Mengmeng over to Leah to take care of, while he led all the males in the tribe out to hunt, announcing the start of a new year. Leah stopped one of Nina's partners, asking him to bring Nina down to take good care of her, and not to be an eyesore. Otherwise, no one would be able to stop Gu Mengmeng from throwing stones at her again. That partner naturally could not ask for more, and hurriedly and carefully brought the unconscious Nina away. After Nina left, Gu Mengmeng then asked unhappily, "Why did Elvis stop me?" Leah smiled mysteriously, and inched closer to Gu Mengmeng sneakily, "Call me, Daddy Leah, and I will tell you." Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes, "Whether you want to tell me or not, I can just ask Elvis when he comes back." Leah sighed in grievance, then suddenly stretched his arm from the back of Gu Mengmeng's head. His slender palm touched the side of Gu Mengmeng's face, pulling it towards him, and Gu Mengmeng's little face just happened to be on Lee's prepared lips. It was just a peck, and Leah quickly let go of Gu Mengmeng. Then, he sighed like a cat that had stolen a fish, and said before Gu Mengmeng turned hostile, "The female beauty pageant is coming soon. In the past years, Nina has always represented Saint Nazir. If there is a sudden change this year, it will inevitably attract people's suspicions." Gu Mengmeng was stunned. "Why go for Nina? Can't Sandy go? Look at how beautiful she is after slimming down, she is much prettier than that ugly Nina, alright?" But Leah shook his head. At the end of winter, a female's figure represents the strength of a tribe. The plumper a female is, it means that the tribe has more food during winter. This is also one of the important factors for males to decide if they want to join the tribe. Moreover, Nina is a complete female after all, you will never know what a complete female means to a male. Gu Mengmeng slapped her thigh, "Damn it, I am also a complete female, at most I will go." But Leah shook his head again, and gently caressed the side of Gu Mengmeng's face. "Initially, I decided to take in Nina because I wanted to delay the time for you to expose yourself to the public. Since Sauter had received the news, it was believed that others would have heard about it too. But they are afraid of Elvis's power and dare not offend him easily. So this beauty pageant will be the best test. Gu Mengmeng frowned, asking, "What do you mean? Speak human language." Leah smiled and waved his big tail. He circled Gu Mengmeng's waist and pulled her closer to his side. He continued, "Normally, the tribe that obtained the messenger of the beast deity would choose to publicize the existence of the messenger of the beast deity to raise their own tribe's reputation and attract powerful males to pledge allegiance to them. The beauty pageant is the most suitable time. Therefore, if the one participating in the beauty pageant this year is not Nina, but Sandy or Maya, everyone will guess why a tribe with a perfect female would send a half-orc to participate in the beauty pageant. Maybe Nina died during the winter. Didn't they say that people often die in winter?" Gu Mengmeng said in disdain. Leah smiled and nodded on Gu Mengmeng's little head, saying, "You still don't know the importance of a complete female to the tribe. Let me put it this way, if it wasn't for you, even if everyone in the tribe was sent to Nina's cave for her to eat, no one would frown. Which means, unless the entire Saint Nazir tribe died, they would definitely not let a complete female starve to death." Aside from the topic, thank you to Lin Shi of the Xiaoxiang Academy for the flowers and monthly tickets. There are too many flowers, I can't even count them all. I feel so blissful, thank you. And thank you to 818 Quan GD, UMO Shi, WS. Sakura World Protector of Sakura Suijin, Forget Time, 499 reading points. Also, Daily Protection Group, Readers Group, 4927799273. Chapter 326. Gu Mengmeng really felt that it was not Nina who was twisted, but the worldview of the beast world was twisted. Wasn't she just lacking a pair of bare ears compared to Sandy? Was it worth it for the entire tribe to peel off their own skin and bones just to fill her stomach? Gu Mengmeng could not understand and could not be bothered to understand this twisted worldview, so she continued, "Then what if Nina was unhappy in Saint Nazir and left for another tribe?" Leah smiled and shook his head. In the entire beast world, other than Saint Nazir, no tribe would take in a female whose mating mark has been washed away. Even if she is a complete female, no tribe would dare to take her in. Aren't you afraid that she would use the same trick again and harm the existing females in the tribe? Then, Gu Mengmeng was speechless. Since others know that you, the new messenger of the beast deity, are in Saint Nazir, it is not difficult to know that you and Nina are not on good terms. So, if Nina does not appear in this year's beauty pageant, the most likely reason is that she is dead. And the only person who has the guts and authority to deal with a complete female is the messenger of the beast deity. Once this guess is established, regardless of whether the messenger of the beast deity is really in Saint Nazir, this place will become the target of public criticism. After Leah finished speaking, he paused for a moment, as if he had thought of something funny. He sneered and continued, "Of course, if you directly appear in the beauty pageant, it would be a smart move. After announcing your identity, any conflict on the surface would be seen as a provocation to the messenger of the beast deity. That would cause a conflict in the entire beast world and every tribe would attack and kill the instigator to show their loyalty to you. But, to destroy a tribe and snatch the messenger of the beast deity, why would they only attack forcefully? By then, I'm afraid that all sorts of monsters and deities would infiltrate Saint Nazir and it would be hard to distinguish who is a human and who is a ghost." Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth and said, "So we must keep this Nina. We have to provide for her every year so that she can participate in the beauty pageant?" Leah shook his head and narrowed his eyes. The existence of the messenger of the beast deity is not something that can be hidden easily. After this year's beauty pageant, Nina would be useless. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "So Elvis stopped me today because I still need Nina to participate in that beauty pageant, right?" Leah shook his head again. "How is that possible? If he could mistreat you for the sake of the bigger picture, he would have secretly summoned the leaders of the other tribes before winter and chosen a suitable person from their families to mate with you so as to form an alliance and rapidly expand the territory of Saint Nazir. If that's the case, I'm afraid Saint Nazir would already be the famous Messenger's tribe in the beast world. F*ck. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt a little scared. She almost became a prostitute in the beast world and was forced to receive customers. She patted her little chest. Luckily, Elvis was a wolf with a conscience. Then why did he stop me? Gu Mengmeng was still confused as she tilted her head and asked. Leah smiled as he leaned forward and pressed the tip of his nose against Gu Mengmeng's. He smiled ambiguously and asked, "You really don't remember anything we told you in the past?" Gu Mengmeng retreated backwards awkwardly, but unfortunately, her body was circled by Li's big tail and the space she could move was limited. She cleared her throat and pushed Li's chest away, saying, "You can talk if you want, don't stick close to me." Leah retreated back resentfully and sat properly. He looked at Gu Mengmeng sadly and said, "He stopped you because he knows you are soft-hearted and afraid of blood. He doesn't want any dirty memories to remain in your memory." Aside from the topic, thank you Xiaoxiang for reading Zishua's evaluation votes. Thank you everyone for helping me to give 5 good evaluations. Leah took the opportunity to turn around and stand behind Gu Mengmeng, hugging her from behind. He rested his chin on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder and bit her earlobe softly. "Then why didn't you just expose me just now?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah. "You are the witch doctor of the tribe after all. If I humiliate you in front of everyone, how can you live in the tribe in the future? Your heart aches for me." Leah smiled. "Cut the crap. Hurry up and help me think of a way to settle this pet beast issue. I'm not acting in Investiture of the Gods, there's no use for a vixen. You came to the wrong recording studio." Aside from the topic, thank you to Xiaoxiang's baby, Qbase 5A865F62, for tipping 100 points. Chapter 328. Leah shrugged his shoulders and smiled. "That's easy to solve. As long as you mate with me, I won't be a beast pet anymore." Gu Mengmeng glared at Leah with a darkened face. She repeated with her most serious expression, "I grew up accepting monogamy. I will only have one husband in this lifetime. You better give up on this idea and consider others." Leah pouted his lips and said seductively, "The second method, when do you want to try snow fox meat, scram?" Gu Mengmeng interrupted Li's words. She could not accept such a joke. Especially when she found out that this kind of thing was really happening around her, she couldn't accept it. Leah had a sense of propriety. He could tell when Gu Mengmeng was pretending to be angry and when she was really angry. Now that she was angry, he did not continue speaking. He just rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and coaxed her, all right, since the news of me being your beast pet has already been spread out, just treat it as me wanting to flaunt my prowess by relying on you, the messenger of the beast deity. Even if you can't give me your love, you can at least lend me your name to show off, right?" Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes. Did Leah need to borrow her name to show off? She did not forget how this fellow tore off one of Quentin's arms. She also did not forget how he left the same scar on Sandy's partner on so many of Nina's partners within 3 seconds. With his abilities, he would definitely be a big boss no matter where he went, alright? Gu Mengmeng did not reply to Leah. Sometimes, she was also very conflicted. Leah was the one who let go first, but she always lacked confidence in front of him. It was as if she was the heartless person who went back on his word and abandoned the old for the new. Sighing, Gu Mengmeng asked, "Elvis brought the males in the tribe out to hunt. Is it alright if you don't go?" Leah lifted his chin proudly and said, "Can't you tell? In the entire tribe, other than Elvis, I am the only one who can maintain my human form. This is the difference in our abilities, so you better consider taking me in. You won't be at a disadvantage." Gu Mengmeng's forehead twitched twice. She turned her head and said, "Scram." Gu Mengmeng ignored Leah and just pulled Sandy to the side. Leah did not follow them and only called the 4 little ones to play at the side. "You really don't intend to accept Leah?" I felt that Leah wasn't bad. Although he had a messy past with Nina, he probably had his own difficulties. "I'm not as smart as you, but I can tell that Leah is sincere towards you. You can't possibly not feel anything, right? Moreover, Leah has already announced to the world that he is your beast pet. If you still refuse to accept him, he will be laughed at by others. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and looked at Sandy helplessly. Why are you also trying to persuade me to accept Leah? I have already mated with Elvis. I have a husband, a married woman, do you understand? You're still fooling around outside. You're going to be drowned in a pig cage, okay? Sandy pouted her lips and lowered her head in disappointment and sadness. She fiddled with her fingers and muttered softly, if Leah can only be a beast pet, then won't he have even less chance? Gu Mengmeng hooked Sandy's chin lightly with her hand and lifted her little face up. She squinted her eyes at Sandy and asked, Who is the person you're thinking of in your heart? Aside from the topic, thank you, Xiao Xiang's baby, Li Feng 7428. 18 monthly tickets. True love indeed. Thank you, baby. Chapter 329. Sandy was a little embarrassed. She looked at Gu Mengmeng's side profile against the light. She did not know if it was because of her guilty conscience, but she just felt her heart beating wildly. Blushing, Sandy avoided Gu Mengmeng's eyes and mumbled, No one. Gu Mengmeng slowly inched closer to Sandy until the tip of her nose was almost touching Sandy's. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng raised her brows and said, No one. That's not right. I can clearly smell an adulterous affair. Sandy hurriedly shook her head and said, No, nothing happened between me and Colin. Gu Mengmeng smiled devilishly and released Sandy's chin. She said in a seemingly casual manner, Ah. Colin. Sandy realized that she had let it slip. She hurriedly covered her mouth with her two hands and looked at Gu Mengmeng with her big innocent eyes. The word, guilty, was clearly written all over her face. Gu Mengmeng turned around and laid on Sandy's lap like how Leah usually did. She used her hand to gently pat Sandy's hand away from her mouth and asked with a smile, Why? Do you like Colin? Sandy instinctively nodded her head before suddenly regaining her senses and shaking her head violently. Gu Mengmeng crossed her arms in front of her chest and closed her eyes. She just laid on Sandy's lap quietly as if she had fallen asleep. After a long while, she slowly opened her mouth and said, This is not the first time I have heard you mention Colin in front of me. Your feelings towards him are very obvious. Sandy's face turned red. Even though she knew that Gu Mengmeng had closed her eyes and was not looking at her, she still lowered her head guiltily. How is it? Do you need me to help you? Gu Mengmeng slowly opened her eyes. Sunlight was reflected in her pupils and it was so dazzling. Help me. Sandy was dazzled by Gu Mengmeng's gaze. She could not help but repeat the last two words after Gu Mengmeng. That unconcealable yearning and anticipation made her look like a little girl who just had her first awakening of love. Gu Mengmeng smiled and sat up. She pinched Sandy's little face and said, Your feelings are all written on your face. Sandy blushed and hurriedly covered her face with both hands. She looked at Gu Mengmeng with her big innocent eyes and pursed her lips, unable to say a word for a long time. Colin is an honest man. If you like him, you have to act fast, Gu Mengmeng said. Sandy bit her lip and asked, Do you like Colin too? The person he likes is you. If you are willing to accept him, I can give up. Gu Mengmeng smiled in a carefree manner and looked towards the beast horde that was charging towards them from afar. The eyes of the black wolf that was leading the pack were as bright as the stars in the night sky, its focused gaze meeting with Gu Mengmeng's. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands, then turned to look at Sandy. That is my man. Sandy nodded stiffly and didn't say anything. A small seed sprouted in his heart. Maybe, in just a few breaths, Elvis had already reached Gu Mengmeng. At the same time that he transformed into a human, he fastened his animal skin skirt. He remembered that his Xiao Meng did not like others to see his body, especially some exclusive parts. Gu Mengmeng went up to him. Standing on the platform of the deity's punishment, she was slightly taller than Elvis. She opened her arms wide and looked like she was asking for a hug. Elvis smiled and opened his arms wide. Gu Mengmeng leaned forward without hesitation and fell straight into Elvis's chest. She wrapped her arms around his neck and planted a kiss on the side of his face. My dear, welcome home. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling from Xiaoxiang Academy 138 by 0577 for the Fresh Flower monthly evaluation ticket. You really took care of me from all angles, haha, and thank you to the little darling from QQ Reading, BG, for the 698 points rewarded. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.